What is going on, Only Playbook fans? We are back. It's been a couple of weeks, and the NFL draft is just a week away. What better time to get our first official mock draft in? I'm your host, Weekar. I got Jake joining me. We are going to do a first round predictive mock, basically what we think these teams are going to do for every team in the first round. Jake, how are you feeling heading into this mock draft, man?
I feel pretty good actually. As I've done some more scouting on a lot of these players, like I think a lot of people are down on this class. I don't know that necessarily I'm as down on this class. At least the top end talent. Maybe it's not the blue chips we're used to with some incredibly high ceiling guys, but I think there's a lot of good players in this class. I'm excited just to see how this falls. We're what, about week and a half, 2 weeks out from the draft,
Literally a week and a day.
or
It's
one,
next
yeah, a week and a
Thursday.
day, yeah,
Yep. So it's
yeah.
going to be
So
exactly a week out. And you're right. I think a lot of times draft classes are judged based on the quarterbacks. And so when you have a weak quarterback class, a lot of times they just lump it into the whole thing and be like, oh, it's a weak class overall. I think outside of the quarterbacks, it is a pretty good class. So I completely agree with you. Let's not waste any time. We are going to alternate. You got the odds. That way you get the Panthers at 19. I got the even. So I get the Vikings at 18. So I'll let you kick us off, my man. Number one, the Las Vegas Raiders are officially on the clock.
yeah, I don't think need to take much time here. I mean, I would be shocked if this goes any other direction. This is going to be Fernando Mendoza, without a doubt, going number one to the Raiders. I have read some kind of random rumors sitting out there that they may be willing to trade down if they could just get an absolute monster haul to move down one or two picks with the Jets or Cardinals. I don't anticipate that's going to happen. I've read some sources and things online that say he's already learning the Raiders playbook. So it seems like it's almost a given it's going to be Mendoza here at one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it takes an awful amount of balls to trade down when you know you desperately need a quarterback to steer this franchise in a new direction, new head coach, all the new stuff. So I just think they need a cornerstone quarterback to kind of right the ship. And Mendoza is that guy. Again, just anticipation, smart, and just clutch. Like when you need it, he makes the plays. So not a prototypical number one overall pick or blue chip quarterback, if you will, but I still think he warrants the number one overall pick. That takes me
Yeah.
to the New York Jets here at two, Jake. Interesting situation here for the Jets. They also need a quarterback, but you're not going to go Ty Simpson here at second overall. They do need a wide receiver. They need edge help, and they do need cornerback help. So I'm looking at the board here. Arvell Reese on this Stick to the Model website is the number one overall prospect. You do have Ruben Bain Jr., you have David Bailey. A lot of steam with David Bailey coming as we head closer to the draft as a more refined pass rusher, as a prototypical end, whereas you have Arvell Reese, you don't really know if he's going to be a linebacker. He's projected to play end, so they're projecting him to be like a Micah Parsons type player, but he hasn't done enough of that in college, so there is some fear with the projection. I personally think Arvell Reese is the better player because he has more high-end
Yep.
upside. But I do think if we're doing this as a predictive mock, I think the Jets are going to go David Bailey, man. I think they need somebody who is going to be come in and in day one be able to, get to the quarterback. And so I think he's the best pass rusher in the class, unless you want to argue with Ruben Bain Jr. a little bit. But I still think it's David Bailey. So I'm going to take David Bailey here at number 2 for the Jets.
Yeah, I really like to pick that. That's what I was going to say. I think it's either that or Arvell Reese here. I think that if I had to take a guess, I think the Jets probably go Bailey just because of the edge rusher skills. He's really played that position as his primary position.
Yep.
Really, I think it's just, do they want the upside, a player that I think is probably the better player in
I
Arvell
agree.
Reese, but and he's played against more top end talent if you're looking at
Mm-hmm.
the Big Ten against the Big 12. But I think I agree with you definitely there with the Jets. So the Arizona Cardinals, quite a few needs here. This is another spot where I kind of had a tough time deciding which way I wanted to go. I think this could be a shocking pick, but I think I'm probably going to go a little bit more towards what I think is going to happen. But I will say I wouldn't be shocked if we saw something crazy like a Jeremiah Love or somebody really fly off the board early here and surprise a lot of people. I don't think I'm going to go with that today. I think most likely if the board fell this way, this one too, I think I'm going to go Arvell Reese here. They need linebacker help, and he is a player that can play off ball linebacker. Of course, do you want to necessarily take an off ball linebacker at 3? Maybe not, but he does have that potential to be able to come off the edge if they're going to develop him into kind of a two-way style player. I just think the upside, the talent there with Arvell Reese is worthy of being a top 3 pick in this class. So I'm going to take Arvell Reese there for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I like it. The Cardinals are in a complete rebuild, right? So they just need cornerstones in that franchise to build around. Obviously, they need a quarterback, and so that's going to be a top priority for them. I don't know that Brissett's the answer in the future, but I just think if you can pick up blue chip or top end players in this draft and just load up your roster that way, that's going to be the best option for them rather than, drafting based on need. It just happens to be the fact that they do need linebacker and edge help potentially. So wherever Reese fits in, I think he's going to come in and immediately make an impact. So I agree with that pick wholeheartedly. The other option would be maybe go offensive tackle. They do need offensive tackle to pair with
Yeah.
Paris Johnson. But I think Arvell Reese is such a, high end, high potential player that it's hard to see him slip further than 3 overall. Number 4, Tennessee Titans here. A lot of mocks are showing Jeremiah Love going to the Titans at 4. It's interesting because, they drafted Cam Ward, so he needs, weapons, whether it's a running back who can also run, be a 3-down back and catch the ball, whether it's weapons on the outside, whether it's, offensive line help. They need center, they need guard. They have some tackles. So it's a little bit interesting on which way you can go. But what's interesting here is you and I were texting yesterday about a player that we happen to start to love, and his name is Sonny Styles. He's a linebacker out of Ohio State. Now, the fear here is he's an inside linebacker, so he's going to play middle linebacker. He's getting way too many early comps to Fred Warner. While I do think Styles is an incredible player, you can't just make somebody Fred Warner. Like, that is a 1 in a 1 million type player with everything that he does. But you have a guy who's going to come in and be the Mike linebacker. So I just think when you're going to be basically the quarterback of the defense, it's going to warrant getting a higher pick than what most people think. And I just think in this draft where, again, like you mentioned, maybe not the most array of blue chip prospects at the top end, you're going to try to, get players who have upside and things like that. So Sonny Styles it's going to be, to me, it's between Sonny Styles and Jeremiah Love. And again, as much as I'd love to throw, no pun intended, Jeremiah Love in there, they still have Tajay Spears, if I'm not mistaken. Did Tony Pollard sign elsewhere, or did I mistake that? No, he's still there. Tony Pollard is still there. So they still have Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. So I just think it's a plethora of riches if they went running back, and it wouldn't necessarily be fixing a direct need. So I'm going to go ahead and take Sonny Styles here to basically be the captain of the defense, the Mike linebacker, the middle linebacker, all the comps to Fred Warner. I hope he lives up to that potential, but he is an awesome, awesome player, man. Freak, end-to-end speed. He's really, really good at dissecting what the offense is doing. And so I don't really think he has too many weaknesses. Jake, do you?
No, I love him as a player. We had talked about it a little bit separately, like you said. I mean, I think both of these Ohio State linebackers are just phenomenal players. And in this class, where we had already talked about it in some of our other videos, that I feel like this class, we both feel like this class is a little bit more defensive heavy on the first round. And, I think Titans, while they do need some offensive help, I think he can be really the anchor of your defense. And, I think that's a player you can justify taking it for. Of course, Jeremiah Love is going to be an option there. Would I be shocked to see Jeremiah Love go at 4? No, not at all. I think that's definitely something they're going to consider. But like you said, they already have pieces there. They don't really have somebody anchoring that defense right now. And I think Sonny Styles could plug in there very quickly and be a monster for them for years to come.
Absolutely agree.
Now, at 5, the New York Giants. They really need a couple different positions. Could always take a wide receiver. You have Malik Neighbors coming off of the injury. I still believe Malik Neighbors is going to be a stud. I don't have a ton that I really worry about with Malik Neighbors. Of course, an ACL always makes you a little nervous. Safety is a need here. Linebacker, they need interior offensive line. I don't think this is a spot you necessarily go interior offensive line in the top 5. I kind of went back and forth here. I could see like a Carnell Tate. I could see a Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson. But I think where I land here is I actually think this may be the best player in the class in Caleb Downs. So I really think he's a great fit for this Giants team. They need that help in the secondary. Caleb Downs is an elite prospect in my mind. Probably could have came out last year and been one of the best defensive players in the class. Decided to go to Ohio State, continue to build up that monster defense that they had. So I think, even though we're going to be going 3 Ohio State defensive players here in the first 5 picks, I think I'm going to go with Caleb Downs here. I just think the fit there is so great. Would I be surprised if this is a receiver? No, but I just lean a little bit more towards Caleb Downs being the pick here.
Yeah, I honestly love that, Jake. I think, again, the Giants are in a similar situation. They just got John Harbaugh. And so I think that already flips the way they're going to draft upside down. So I do think he is a guy that obviously historically drafts in the trenches. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go offensive line here as well, just to continue to fortify things in front of Jackson Dart. Weapons are always going to help Jackson Dart for sure. But I do think, like you said, they already have a bona fide stud number one receiver. They drafted Cam Scatterboot, so there's not necessarily a pressing need to take Jeremiah Love here. And so that's why you just take arguably the best football player in the draft, Caleb Downs, an absolute elite safety prospect, top echelon IQ, can play just about everywhere. Again, zero weaknesses. It is crazy that Ohio State was fielding Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, and Caleb Downs all on the field at the same time when you think about it. And now they're going third, fourth, and fifth in our mock draft. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, man. A great, great football player. And again, if it wasn't for positional value, you could argue Caleb Downs is the best prospect in this class.
Yep.
All right. That gives me the Cleveland Browns here at number 6 on the clock. They need a lot of help. They need quarterback. They need receiver. They need offensive line. So every which way is a possibility. I don't think they'll go running back here just because they have Quinshon Judkins. So that feels like that would be kind of redundant. So if we're looking at a situation where the Browns do need a receiver, they do need offensive line. I personally think, as sexy as a receiver would be, I think they're going to go offensive line. So I'm going to get the first tackle off the board. Miami offensive tackle Francis Mauigoa, one of the best tackle prospects in the class. Again, the Browns are also years away, and they still need a quarterback. They don't think Shador is the answer. And again, one of the worst things for Shador in college and in pros, his offensive line continues to be abysmal. So fortifying a tackle spot for him would really, really do wonders. It's not like they don't have weapons. They have Judy. They have said Tillman, who they are still expecting to burst on and really be a true wide receiver too. Would it be awesome if they took a Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, those kind of guys? Absolutely. But I just think sometimes the sexy pick versus the necessary pick, you have to kind of outweigh what's going to matter most. And there are good receivers down, down the class, down the board. So I think you can wait to potentially get a receiver. They have a second first-round pick as well. So I'm going to hope that one of these receivers falls to them at 24, I think is where they pick, and I get to pick for them again. So I'm really hoping this double-dipping situation or this two-pick situation works out the way I want it to. But I'm going to go Francis Mauigoa, offensive tackle out of the U, Miami.
Yep, I think that's a great pick. That's exactly where I have the Browns going as well. I just think, you drafted 2 quarterbacks last year. You did use late round picks on them. So it's not like you're afraid to take another one. I just don't think there's anyone here that would really justify being taken. And the receivers aren't going to be very useful if Shador is going down 5 or 6 times a game. So, you have to at least give him some opportunity, whichever quarterback it is. It could even be Gabriel. They may end up bringing in somebody else to compete for reps. Who really knows what the Browns are going to do there? But Francis Mauigoa is big. He's really strong. I think he has potential to be a really good tackle in the league. I don't know which side of the line he'll play, if he'll be left on or on the right side, but I think he is a guy that you can plug in pretty quickly, has the NFL body type that he can fit in and play really well. So.
Yep. And the one thing I'll say is they do have an arm length concern for him, which, again, a lot of times they pose as a concern. But the way I view it is he's an elite offensive lineman. So worst case, they can push him into guard. I know ideally you don't want to draft a guard 6th overall, but he is a tackle that has the ability to play guard. And we saw short arm Will Campbell get drafted, in the top 5 last year or 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And so, again, NFL is evolving and changing, and they're taking, players that are just good football players. And Mauigoa is a great offensive lineman, whether they do end up putting him at tackle or they slide him into guard for flexibility there.
Yeah. So I got the Washington Commanders here at 7. So a lot of needs here. I think running back, receiver, they could use some help on the D-line, some help in the secondary at safety as well. I'm kind of going back and forth between 2 players here. So, I think Jeremiah Love would definitely be an option here for them. They could definitely take a look at Love. I know also Carnell Tate, I think, is a good opportunity to go here. He's actually not my wide receiver 1. But a lot of what I've read online, a lot of folks are kind of anticipating that if they go receiver here, they're leaning a little bit more towards Carnell Tate, at least for what I've read. So just going based off of what I think would happen, if it were me, I'd probably be looking more towards Jordan Tyson here. But I think they may choose just the position that I think has a little bit more value, even though I think Jeremiah Love's going to be elite. I think they'll probably go with Carnell Tate here. So I think I'm going to pick Carnell Tate here at 7 for the Commanders. Get Jaden another weapon there. Give him a number 1 receiver that he can really throw the ball to. They still have, of course, some other guys, but they're all aging. Get you a young player in there that kind of fits the timeline of where Jaden Daniels is. You hope that he can stay healthy and continue to play through next year. This gives him a really good option at receiver, a guy that can go up and get the ball, consistently scores touchdowns, really good player, great route runner. So I think could go either way, but I think Carnell Tate would likely be the pick I would think they're going to go here if the board falls this way.
Yeah, pair him with Scary Terry, give Jaden another weapon. You said it. And, the other thing that I will say about the way these wide receivers are going to go in the draft is Jordan Tyson has this pro day scheduled for Friday, April 17th. So I just think the way that goes is going to really, really shake up what the rankings of the receivers are going to be, because I've also read and heard mixed things on Jordan Tyson. There are people that don't care about the injury stuff. They're completely in on the player. And there are people that automatically use the injuries to have reservations. So I just think the 17th, which is this Friday, April 17th, he's going to have his pro day, so that's going to tell a lot. But Carnell Tate, Ohio State, incredible hands, incredible route runner, doesn't have the top end speed, but that doesn't seem to matter. His separation is elite. Again, doesn't drop the football. So there's really nothing he can't do except he's not a burner. So he should turn out to be an absolutely solid pro there. Number 8, the New Orleans Saints here are on the clock. Saints need a lot of help. They need receiver, they need linebacker, they need defensive line. So there's, a lot of options here. I didn't think Jeremiah Love would be on the board, but I don't think the Saints necessarily should go running back here, but Love continues to slip. So, and obviously we're not going to do trades here, Jake, but I do think it's interesting that if something like this does happen where a running back does start to fall, that's elite, there's going to be another team that potentially calls up and trades up for this situation. But the Saints just signed Travis Etienne, and they still do have Alvin Kamara on the roster. And they also brought in Ty Chandler. So they've definitely fortified the running back room. So I don't see Jeremiah Love going here. So I'm actually going to give the Saints the next pass rusher on the board, Ruben Bain Jr. out of Miami. I think, again, they need pass rush help as well. This is another guy that is an absolute freak of nature. The only thing that you have to think about with Ruben Bain is there was some reporting that came up about some off-field stuff, something about I believe a hit and run where somebody was killed, and it was last year. And I think everybody's indicating that they already knew about that. So again, how these things can happen, especially as you get closer to the draft. There are going to be stupid reasons why people fall on the draft board, and there's going to be legitimate reasons. And so I don't know what this is going to be. So there is a world where he falls, but he is an amazing pass rusher. Just causes havoc, man. Just absolutely causes havoc. So I just think he's so freaking good that I don't know that he's going to get outside the top 10. He's got one of the best first steps of any pass rusher that I've seen in a really long time. Again, he converts speed to power absolutely naturally. So again, a lot to like with Ruben Bain. Again, the way Arvell Reese, Ruben Bain, David Bailey, there could be some interchanging with when we get to the draft, when we get to draft day a week from today, but I'm going to have the Saints take Ruben Bain Jr. here at 8 overall.
So pick 9, Kansas City Chiefs on the board. Obviously signed Kenneth Walker this offseason. So Jeremiah Love, not a huge need here. Would have normally been a money player for this offense. Receivers, obviously a big need. DBs, I think a need with Trent McDuffie going to the Rams. So I think I'd probably go one of those two directions, either a Jordan Tyson or a Mansour out of LSU. I think they may lean a little bit more towards going with the defensive side of the ball here. So I'm actually going to go with Mansour out of LSU at pick 9. I think they go ahead, draft another DB to come in here. Trent McDuffie, obviously leaving, is a huge hole on their team. So I think this would be a great pick. Is he going to be able to fill that role and do what McDuffie did? Maybe not, but does give you a really good player out of LSU that I think can really plug in and play very early. And they've done that before. Trent McDuffie, when he got drafted, got plugged in, became a starter almost immediately, had a lot of success for them. So I could see a similar type of situation happening here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The Bengals are kicking their chairs because they would have loved to have Mansour Delane fall in their lap there at that point, but he goes right before them. And so this puts them on the clock here. And the Bengals are not necessarily happy with the way this board is falling. I'm not going to lie to you. They need linebacker help. Some of the best linebackers are off the board. They needed safety help. Caleb Downs is obviously off the board. There are a couple of other safeties, but I just think 10 is a little too rich personally. Although Dylan Thieneman has been climbing up boards crazy, and I can't quite understand why. Maybe I'll eat my words there. They could still get some other cornerback help. I know despite the injury in 2025, Jermon McCoy, before coming into the season, was viewed as probably the top cornerback prospect. And so depending on kind of what fit you like, Jermon McCoy is still available on the board. We always know that they need offensive line help. So I am actually going to look at a guy here, Spencer Fano, out of Utah. I do think he has the ability to also kick inside if he needs to, but he is a tackle. Again, we've talked about Joe Burrow and his injuries. It would be awesome to take Jeremiah Love here, and I think they're seriously going to consider it, even though they have Chase Brown. Like, we know what Chase Brown is. He's a good player, but Jeremiah Love into that offense, like, do we even think that would be fair? No, but at the same time, Jake, their offensive line continues to be horrendous. I know they made some signings in the offseason, but it's like, cool, you got Love, you got Chase, you got Burrow, you got all these cool weapons, but Burrow doesn't have more than like 2.5 seconds to throw the football or decide what to do. Love's going to not have any running space, similar to kind of what happened with Ashton Ginty. We were all excited about him, went to a team with abysmal offensive line play, and he was absolutely bottled up most of the season. So as much as I love Jeremiah Love, and I think the Bengals would seriously consider it here, I think they have to be smart and go offensive line. So I'm going to go Spencer Fano from Utah there.
Yeah, Dolphins are hating that pick because that's exactly who I was looking at there for them to take at pick 11. So, definitely need some offensive line help in Miami. So I think Spencer Fano would have been a perfect player there to plug into that because, like you said, he can step inside and play guard. Obviously wide receiver and DB are both play positions. I think could be a worse spot for the Dolphins. There are still a lot of talented players here. Would have loved for them to be able to go offensive line. I think they would still even consider doing so if the board fell this way. I know Monroe has been flying up boards from Georgia. A lot of folks are really liking him now. I don't really see Proctor going here. I don't know why. I mean, he has the prototypical size. I don't know what it is. I just don't feel like I love him as a player. I can't really explain it. It's one of those.
He lacked a lot of consistency, and I think they put that in here as well. I just feel like you'd see really, really upside plays, and then you'd see plays where you're like, come on, dude, like basic stuff. And so there were some inconsistencies in his play, but I do think he's a first round talent. I just don't think he'd go here either.
Yeah. So it's, I think really just depending which side of the ball they wanted to go with, I could definitely see Monroe going here. I think he would be a really good player to draft in this spot for him. I could also see them going Gerard McCoy from Tennessee at DB. There's some injury concerns there, but I think is a great player when he's healthy. So I think that would be a great option. Jordan Tyson would be the other thought there that I would have is another guy injury concerns that you would consider taking here. I still really feel heart set on them going offensive line here. So I think I actually am going to go ahead and go Monroe with this. I think he would be probably my favorite player here still left on the board. I think it's a position that they really need, and I think he's elevated up a lot of draft boards. So I think him sneaking in here at 11, taking him because, Dallas would consider that as well. So I think they go ahead, take Monroe here at pick 11.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's a freak of nature, 6'7", 315 pounds, and he still ran a 4.93. His relative athletic score was 10 out of 10, Jake, which is literally the 100th percentile. So he is an absolute freak. 84-inch wingspan. I mean, that is absolutely absurd. So, the making is all there for an absolutely elite tackle prospect. He just has to kind of put it all together. But I do like the fit there in Miami. We'll go to the Dallas Cowboys at 12 here. The Cowboys do need linebacker help. They need cornerback help. They need interior defensive line help. So they could go any which way here. I think I'm going to go ahead and take the next corner off the board for them. Again, they do need outside help. They're in a division where if the Commanders do end up drafting a receiver and they have somebody to pair with Terry McLaurin, you're just going to need defensive backs because the Eagles already have great receivers and the Giants have Malik Neighbors, and they could also draft another receiver. So cornerbacks are something the Dallas Cowboys absolutely need. So I'm going to take Jermon McCoy here out of Tennessee. Again, if not for the ACL in 2025 coming in before the season started, he was the number one ranked cornerback, and I just think his 2024 tape is still absolutely elite. So I think he has the ability to come in and play, and I'm going to have the Cowboys take him at 12.
Yeah, perfect. So LA Rams on the clock. They have what I would say wide receiver is still a need here. Could definitely plug one of these guys into the system with them. Tackle, linebacker still being needs. Just not a lot of players that I love at that spot. So I think this would be a great opportunity. Definitely, I mean, Jeremiah Love is there, but it's insane that he's still sitting on the board because I don't think there's even
someone will trade up for him. This is not happening. We just need the viewers to know that.
Yeah. So anybody watching this video that absolutely hates us right now for having Jeremiah Love sitting on the board at 13, we know that he is most likely going to be gone here. It's kind of worked out in a weird spot where this 9 through 12 are teams that I just don't think would necessarily take him. but I think somebody would probably jump into that spot and take him
Yep.
if he's still sitting on the board. We're just not doing trades for the sake of the video today. But I think here, if I'm the Rams, I go ahead, plug in a second wide receiver. I'd go Jordan Tyson here. So I think Jordan Tyson's the pick. There are the injury concerns, but just an elite player. If you can get him, pair him beside of Puka, just an absolute nightmare for anyone that has to try to defend this team.
Yep, absolutely. He is my wide receiver one. He is also your wide receiver one. If not for the injury concerns, you said it. He would, without a doubt, be the number one receiver, probably consensus across the board. He is elite, man. His ball skills, elite. His movement skills, elite. He reminds me of like a better Stephon Diggs, which again, Diggs was a 5th-round receiver. So, and that was because of injuries in college and stuff like that. Otherwise, he was a better talent. But like the way he moves, his route running, all of that, separation skills, all quick twitch. And so, those are things that I gravitate towards as well. Let's hope he stays healthy because the NFL needs to watch Jordan Tyson dominate. So I would love to see that. I have to say,
I'm getting a little bit nervous watching Jeremiah Love fall like this because I'm just wondering where we're going to end up taking him. And it's making me nervous that he keeps falling to the floor here.
Well, just so you know, if he's there for the Vikings at 18, there is no world where I will not take Jeremiah Love. So, I mean, and that we're almost there because, yeah, right now we've got the Ravens at 14 here, Jake. They've got Derrick Henry. Yeah, he's like 35, but he's still absolutely dominating. And it's not necessarily a position of need for the Ravens to take him. In fact, they need weapons on the boundaries. They need receivers. You could argue they potentially need a tight end. They did extend Mark Andrews, but did they not extend Isaiah Likely? So did Isaiah Likely get signed somewhere else? Man, it's so hard to keep up with the
I think he did, yeah. I forget where he
Giants.
ended up going.
Giants.
That's right. Yeah,
yeah. So I'm sorry to say this. I'm sure you were hoping for this guy to fall at 19, but I'm going to have the Baltimore Ravens go ahead and take Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. Absolute electric athlete, 9.5 RAS score, a tight end that ran a 4.39. Jake, we've come here. We're officially here. We've arrived where now if you have a tight end run like a 4 or 5, you're like, kind of slow. And so this guy runs a 4.39, 6'3", 241. He's a mismatch no matter where you put him, inline, outside, slot, boundary. It does not matter. He's not the best run blocker, but he does put in a ton of effort there. So it's not like he's strictly like all I do is catch the football. So he's at least going to make an effort to protect the quarterback and run block. But with all that being said, he is an electric weapon. Lamar needs more weapons. So I'm not even going to think about it. I'm going to go ahead and get Kenyon Sadiq to the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, and honestly, may not would be as upset as you think because I think Tampa would be a team that would highly likely look at Sadiq here with pick 15. Yeah. I definitely do not want him playing in the division against us and having Baker throwing him the football. So that was most likely going to be my pick here at 15. Even though I was going to try to maybe mix in a little bias, let him fall to 19 for me just for my own sake. But I mean, 15, I think tight end is a need for them. Obviously, Sadiq going off the board takes that option away. I don't think they're going to reach for another tight end here. They do need guard. They do need edge. They do need linebacker. All of those have been thinned out quite a bit here as we've looked through the draft. So, another spot where they just don't necessarily need a running back. They have Bucky Irving there. He has had some injury concerns. But overall when he plays, he's been elite. They have a lot of, depth at the running back position. So it just doesn't feel like a huge need for them. This is a spot I could see one of the offensive linemen going off the board. I'm not sure exactly which way we would go. Probably.
I think this could be the really first guard off the board. He goes by Vega Ione, I believe.
Okay, I was going to say I'm not going to try his name and butcher it. I think they do need guard help. It really is more of an interior offensive line play for them. So I don't really think Caden Proctor's the guy there. I think it probably is him out of Penn State. I think he's most likely the option here at 15 if the board were to fall this way.
Yep. I don't think that's a bad pick either. I put on there Tampa Bay, big need is guard as well. And so he is the best pure guard prospect in the class. That's exactly what he is. He's not going to go out and play tackle for you, but he's the elite guard prospect on the board. So I don't hate it. Again, we see it every year where, in the first round, there's 2 or 3 picks where it's like an off-ball linebacker or a guard or something like that. And at the end of the day, you're trying to get your football team to be better. Baker needs protection. So I love the pick. I love the pick at all. Absolutely. The Jets are on the clock again at 16. We gave them David Bailey at second overall, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech. So that goes ahead and takes care of one of their needs. Now they still do need receiver. They still do need linebacker. Sadly enough, they don't need running back. So Jeremiah Love is going to continue to have to wait. They do still have Brees Hall. So no Jeremiah Love here, but I just think I'm going to make this pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and take Mekhi Lemon, receiver out of USC. You pair him up with Garrett Wilson. Again, they do still need a quarterback, but they need receiving help badly. And so I think this is going to be really, really good for the future of the New York Jets in their receiving room, at least. So Mekhi Lemon, he should come in and absolutely dominate the slot. This guy looks like a walking 100 catch player every single year. Everybody comps him to Amon-Ra. It's the very safe comp, but I just think he does a little bit more. But if you want one thing that's, in NFL vernacular, he's got the dog in him, Jake. He's got that dog in him, and
Absolutely.
You want these kind of football players on your team. So Mekhi Lemon to the Jets, turn that goddamn franchise around, my man.
Absolutely. At 17, this is a spot I would say if the board fell this way, simply out of spite for Dan Campbell, seeing Jeremiah Love on the board and knowing the Vikings in the next pick would probably be a snap pick here for him. Even though he has Gibbs, I don't think there's a world where he lets him fall into your lap at the Vikings and plays against him. So, and obviously Montgomery's gone now, right? He went to
yeah. Who did they bring in? They brought in Montgomery went to the Texans. Montgomery went to the Texans.
Yeah, that's right.
And then the Lions brought in Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah, this would be a spot where they might just take him simply out of spite for the Vikings. I'm not going to do that just for the sake of the mock draft here because I think Love will be long off the board by this time. So in this case, we will have you guys get Jeremiah Love falling in your lap here. But they need interior help on the D-line. They need linebacker. They need tackle. So this is a spot where you could see Caden Proctor go. There's actually another player I really like. I think he was probably projected to go a little bit higher last year, but I think they could go with interior D-line with Peter Woods here. The upside going into the year was really high for him, kind of fell off a little bit. I think some of that may have just been Clemson not being as relevant as people expected them to be, but this was a 5-star recruit. This was a guy that was very high in a lot of people mock draft. I think early in the year, people were showing him top 5 coming out and maybe be best interior defensive lineman in the class. Still could be the case. I mean, he has a lot of things that you really like. I think he also fits the gritty style that Dan Campbell likes to play. So I think I would go Peter Woods here at 17 for Detroit.
I like it. I like the pick. Is that the first interior defensive lineman off the board, I believe? I think it's a good fit. I think it's a good fit for their defense. Gets to play next to Aiden Hutchinson. And like you said, fits the Dan Campbell mold perfectly. Well, Jake, we're here. The Minnesota Vikings are at 18, and they are just licking their chops. They are running up to the podium because they are going to take running back Jeremiah Love, who absolutely will not be here at 18. I remember maybe in the spring or something when mock drafts first came out, Love was getting projected to the Vikings. There's a chance the Vikings could get Love. And then you started seeing like Love in the top 3, Love to the Titans at 4 over and over again. And so if Love fell to 18, it would be an absolute travesty for the rest of the league. It would be like Christmas for me and Vikings fans. But like we said, they are going to act like if he continues to fall, some team will jump up and trade for Jeremiah Love. That is an absolute certainty. But in this mock draft, it's Christmas for me, basically, in this mock world where Jeremiah Love falls to the Minnesota Vikings at 18. They already have Aaron Jones. They have Jordan Mason. Aaron Jones is old. Jordan Mason's not really anything to write home about. So Jeremiah Love comes in and immediately turns that offense around. It's going to, supplant the running game and turn them into, true, both passing and running capability team because they've been very one-dimensional for the last couple of years, not having consistent running back play.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that drops us to the Panthers. Obviously, tight end is a need here. Would have loved to have a tight end. Sadiq's still on the board. Receiver is an option here. I don't believe we're going to go that way at 19, or I would be kind of shocked unless one of the big guys ended up falling to us. One of the big 3 ended up falling to us in this spot. We do need help on the interior offensive line at center. We had a ton of injuries in those positions. Still need interior defensive line help as well. So definitely a spot that I could see Falk being an option here out of Auburn. Mm-hmm. Safety is also a lot of where I'm hearing rumors that we're looking at going. I've seen Dylan, is it Thieneman from Oregon? Thieneman. And then I know McNeil Warren from Toledo has also been somebody that we've looked at pretty heavily. Dylan's one that I think a lot of people are also saying the Vikings may take at 18. Yep. So, but I think if he's on the board, I think there's a pretty good chance that we go this direction. I think it would either be that or Falk to go in on the interior defensive line. But I think for the sake of our mock draft today, I'm going to go with Dylan Thieneman here at 19 to the Panthers. Get some safety help. Really good player out of Oregon. I think he'll be a really good plug and play player for us. We have some aging guys back there with Trayvon Moehrig being there, and cornerbacks are actually pretty strong if they can stay healthy, but need some safety help. So I think it'd be kind of a perfect position if Vikings don't end up taking him, than him falling through to us at 19.
Yep. I love it because the guy you were debating between Dylan Thieneman and Keldrick Falk. Keldrick Falk's a great fit for the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys need edge help and somebody who can potentially help in the running game. The thing with Keldrick Falk is he's a great run stuffer, but he does have more to be desired from a pass rush perspective, but he is not even 21 years old. So I just think that is something that you can try to mold into him a little bit. He's just really he has the size. He has everything prototypical you love out of a edge rusher coming into the NFL, and he's young, so he's moldable. So I just think this is a great position for the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to go ahead and take Keldrick Falk at 20th.
Yeah, perfect. And then Steelers, I definitely think offensive line help is a huge focus point here. Obviously, quarterback would be a need. I don't foresee them taking Ty Simpson in this spot. They could probably use a running back. I don't think one of the guys is going to jump in here and go running back. So this is kind of a spot I think Proctor makes a lot of sense. Him falling down the board fits kind of into the Steelers mold there. Blake Miller's another that I could definitely see going in this spot. I think it would be one of the two. Honestly, I think Blake Miller's probably the better fit here.
I agree.
I feel like that's probably the direction they would go. So I'm going to take him at 21, actually over Caden Proctor. If he's still on the board, I mean, Proctor could go a little earlier as well, depending on just what people like better. But I don't know why. Blake Miller just kind of feels like a Steeler to me. And so I think this is going to be a spot where I'm going to go Blake Miller here from Clemson at 21.
Yeah. I had two places pegged for Blake Miller in the first round. If he went, it was going to be the Lions at 17 or the Steelers at 21. So I'm glad you took him with the Steelers at 21 because I was going to mention with the Lions, but the Lions did need interior defensive line help as well. So that was a good pick with Peter Woods. But I like Blake Miller. I think he's ranked a little bit lower here than where I would have him. I actually have him higher than Caden Proctor as well. So I like the pick for sure for the Steelers at 21. The Chargers are at 22 here, and the Chargers need the same type of stuff they need every year. They need wide receiver help. Keenan Allen's not getting any younger. Quentin Johnston. I mean, who is Quentin Johnston? Can anybody actually tell us who that guy is and if he's actually reliable for the future? Yeah, they have Ladd, but that's it. Offensive line help has been huge for them, but it's unfortunate because the top guard is off the board, and we've already had 4 or 5 tackles go off the board. So the board isn't falling the way they need. They could also go safety. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is not a bad option for them. They need defensive back help as well. So I would say it's between McNeil-Warren, or if they decide to go another receiver here, because I do think it's a little rich for Pregnon here at 22. I think it's a little rich for him. You could go Lomu and he could probably push into guard. But I just feel like that's also a little bit of a reach. You know what? I am going to go ahead and give them. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, man. I'm going to go ahead and give them a receiver here. I think they have Ladd McConkey to man the slot, right? He's going to be that guy. As much as I love Concepcion, I just don't think he fits exactly what they need here. So I'm going to go ahead and give them Denzel Boston, receiver out of Washington. Massive body. Think Mike Evans, think Michael Pittman. He can play the outside. He's actually going to have reliable hands, unlike Quentin Johnston. And again, you're trying to continue to be in a window that's win now with Justin Herbert. So getting him more weapons is always going to be a good option. I don't know if they'll go offense. I do see Harbaugh loving to go trenches because that's just what the Harbaughs love to do. So this is more of an optimistic spin for the Chargers. But I do think the way the board fell, I don't want to reach for another offensive lineman. Just for the sake of need. They may trade down if they wanted to, but I just think because they do need receiver help, Denzel Boston's a freak. He catches everything. He's great on the outside. He's a red zone threat. He's everything that Ladd McConkey is not, and he's everything that Quentin Johnston is not, because for Quentin Johnston's size and frame, you'd think he'd be a better red zone weapon, or, that's why the Chargers struggle to score touchdowns in the red zone. They don't have that one definitive guy. And so that's where I think Denzel Boston's going to greatly excel.
Yep. Yeah, I love the pick there. I was actually going to say I think Denzel Boston would be a great fit for them in the Charger offense. Herbert would really love throwing to him. He's a consistent player, consistently catches touchdowns, which is exactly what you're looking for. So And then Philly on the clock, there's a couple needs here. I mean, they could always take a receiver, tackle, edge, safety, I think are some of the big needs here for them. This is a spot I think maybe you could see Proctor go off the board. I could definitely see because he has that prototypical size, the team that loves the tush push. This is a guy you could definitely have fall forward and push you forward for a couple of yards. I can also see them potentially considering safety. Who knows with the Eagles, even though their defensive line's insane, they could still continue to take defensive linemen. Who knows? They just love taking them, and they'll end up being a stud if they go to Philly. That's just how it works out. But I think in this case, I think I am going to go. I could also see Concepcion going here. I just don't know if him and Devonta Smith play a little bit of the too similar of a role. So I don't know that he's the best fit in this case with the Eagles. So I think I will go ahead and go with Proctor here at 23, just for the size. If there's any team that could develop him, Philadelphia is probably the place that he could go and really see him excel. So I think they'd be excited to see somebody at that size with the physical gifts that he has to be able to step into that and could plug and play for them in a lot of different positions. Because I've even seen some that say he could kick into guard if he, doesn't have the arm length, the size that they want at the tackle position. Having that massive size on the inside could be great for them in the tush push scenario.
Crazy. That'd be crazy. Yeah. I mean, if they push leave it to the Eagles to do something ridiculously crazy like that and make it work. But I think your pick is spot on here. They love taking players that continue to fall on the draft board that are just massive mammoths of men on the offensive line, defensive line. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they already have two guys who would start in front of them. They just love continuing to draft this carousel, and everything else they just kind of pick and choose and grab whenever they need to. So I love the pick. I think that's a great home for him. He just gets an opportunity to learn behind some elite offensive lineman himself and then continue to refine his own skills.
Yep.
The Browns are back on the clock at 24. We gave the Browns offensive tackle Francis Mauigoa with the 6th overall pick in hopes that there would be something available for them at 24 where they do still need a wide receiver. It is unfortunate because they do have a couple of options here. The problem is I love Concepcion. I just don't know if that's exactly what the Browns need. The Browns need reliability. And as much as I love Concepcion, his biggest knock is he hasn't been as reliable as you could want for just catching the football. And that's pretty like scary for a receiver. So it's not often that I fall in love with the receiver that has trouble catching the football. But this is an outlier for me for whatever reason. I just gravitate towards him. But I'm going to go down a little bit further and I'm going to take the guy that you didn't even have in your top 10 wide receivers. I'm going to take Indiana receiver Omar Cooper Jr. for the Cleveland Browns here. I think he is exactly what they would want. He is the reliability. Think like Jarvis Landry when the Browns had him. This is exactly what Omar Cooper Jr. can be. Get the ball, short yardage, and then let him work. He's going to be able to develop chemistry with a young quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, Gabriel, it doesn't matter. So they're looking for reliable targets. Yes, they have Fannin to build around, but outside of that, again, we talked about Judy. We keep waiting for Judy to break out, and it just doesn't quite happen. Seb Tillman's there. We're hoping he kind of takes the next step, but it hasn't quite happened yet. And so they need somebody reliable to help continue to facilitate that offense, specifically the passing game. So this is where I think Omar Cooper Jr. is going to excel. So give me him at 24 for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. Chicago here, I think, has a couple options. I mean, they definitely need D-line help. They need safety help. They could use a center. I think I already kind of have the player in my mind I want to go with here. I think if Emmanuel is on the board at safety, I think that he's a great pick here at 25. I think this is a first-round pick. So Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, I think, is a really good player. I think definitely could go to the Panthers at 19. I know we really love him from a lot of what I've seen. But if he's still sitting on the board at 25, I think Chicago could definitely use his help at safety. And it's a pretty easy pick for me. I think he's the guy here at 25 if he's still sitting on the board for the Bears. Yeah,
absolutely love it. 6'3" for safety. He's massive, massive guy. So really, really nice to have that size kind of on the back end, right? So I like the pick as well. And there's been a lot of mocks that have mocked him to the Vikings at 18 as well. So getting him at 25, like you said, is probably a steal for the Bears. Yeah. All right, Jake, we're here. The Buffalo Bills are picking at 26, and all I can think about right now is Shakira, and I'm just going to have you guess why that may be the case.
I'm not sure.
Because my favorite receiver is here. The Bills need a receiver. And when I think
Oh
of Casey
yeah, absolutely.
Concepcion, bro, this man's hips absolutely don't lie. We talked about the fact that he needs to work on not dropping the football, but I have rarely seen receivers be this gifted with shiftiness and hip movement. I mean, you just put on his tape and he's got like it's almost like he's got like a aura that's, gleaming around him when he's running around. He just feels faster, looks quicker than everybody else on the field. Again, he's getting open at will, but he has to be able to be more consistent catching the football. That's a huge knock for a receiver, but I do think this is one of those rare cases where he is going to figure it out. And this is an amazing pairing for the Buffalo Bills. They just signed DJ Moore. He's kind of a gadget player, but he plays more on the outside. They give him end arounds and all this. Now you have Khalil Shakir in one slot, and you can literally have Concepcion, who can play outside, by the way. He would play outside on the other side, or they'd also funnel him in the slot. The good thing about this is the Buffalo Bills do a great job on offensive rotating players. Like, how they have Knox in the game sometimes. Sometimes they have Kincaid. So they'll have packages for their different players. But I think Concepcion is going to be that one guy that needs to be on the field at all times. And this is amazing, amazing situation for Buffalo, for Josh Allen, for DJ Moore. So I think bring on Casey Concepcion to the Buffalo Bills offense at the 26th overall pick.
Yeah, I think a great spot for them where they see a player that would probably be high on their boards fall right in their lap at 26, not even having to trade up or make a move to go get him.
Yep.
At 27, I think I really lean towards this being offensive line. Guard, tackle. I don't know if anything's changed. Last time I checked, Trent Williams has not
Nope,
signed
he's
back
still
on
there,
with them
but
just yet, right?
no, but they're saying he's
They
going to
did
come
figure out
back.
his contract.
Yeah, but I don't think he signed a contract. But if the rumor is if he comes back, it's going to be a 1 year. Yeah, they're at an impasse
Yeah,
over his
regardless,
contract.
38 years old. A
Yes.
player that's 38 years old, it's not a long-term option there for you. So I think they could use an edge. They could use a safety here as well. I think a lot of the players that they probably would have targeted have gone off the board. So I really think Max is what I've heard a lot of where they're leaning towards. I could also see Lomu going here at this spot because I think he has more potential to bounce between the two positions of going tackle or guard. So
Mhm.
if you have Trent coming back, maybe you think, hey, we could kick him into guard for a year, have him play that role, and then shift outside. But a lot of what I've read is still that they're leaning a little bit more towards Max is the case out of Arizona State. So just based off of what I've read, I'm going to go that direction just because I think this is more likely going to be the pick. Not necessarily that I agree that this would maybe be the direction I would go, but I think this is probably where they're going to go at pick 27.
Yep. Max Ianacher out of Minnesota.
Yeah, not sure.
I don't, or actually, sorry, out of Arizona
Arizona
State.
State.
I don't know if I'm saying the name correctly. To be honest, I've heard it pronounced multiple different ways, and
Yeah.
nowadays players in the NFL just decide to change how their name is pronounced after like 7 years of being in the NFL. So I don't even try to. I try to, but at the same time, I don't fixate too hard on it. But yes, Arizona State offensive tackle Max Ianacher going to the San Francisco 49ers, the 27th overall pick. I think that's a great fit. They are going to look for offensive lineman help. I absolutely agree with that. So I do think whether it's Lomu or Max, they're going to pick one of the two there. The Houston Texans are on the clock at the 28th overall pick, and they also need offensive line help absolutely desperately. They need a running back, but I don't see a running back, getting drafted at the 28th overall pick. Outside of Love, I don't think another running back should go in the first round. So they either need interior defensive line, which Cade McDonald is very, very intriguing for me here, or they need interior offensive line help or offensive line help. Now, Caleb Lomu is still on the board. I just think they do a great job. D'Amico does a great job with that defense already. That I think if they go interior defensive line, it's just more of a plethora of riches for them. Where we need to see them improve is protecting CJ Stroud because he continues to get worse and worse year after year. So let's have an actual competent offensive line in front of him. So I'm going to go ahead and take the tackle who probably could also play guard, Caleb Lomu out of Utah.
I like it. And then Chiefs back on the clock. I think this is the Rams pick, right, that they got in the trade with McDuffie.
Yep.
Also lost Watson in free agency as well. So I don't think it's an impossible scenario where they double dip on the corners here. I don't think it would be completely impossible for them to go that route. Wide receiver would still be an option here. I just don't know that any of these guys really are like I'm dying to take here at the position. I think a lot of the best ones are off the board. So I could see them maybe even leaning back towards the corner position again. Colton Hood's a guy that's kind of sitting here that I really
Hmm.
like for them.
Hmm.
Uh, so, I think I just don't know that they would necessarily double dip, but I think in this scenario, if the board falls this way, I think Colton Hood would be a great pick here. They just lost two of their best corners. So it definitely could be something. The edge as well is definitely a need. How I could see going here. Maybe would go that direction just because they already took one corner here.
Hmm.
But
The
kind
the
of
one
tough
thing
to
I'll
say.
Well, the one thing I'll say about this is the Chiefs are always basically in a win now window, right? You talk about Akeem Mesidor, he is one of the best pass rushers in the class. The problem is he's 25 years old. So if you're drafting him, you're drafting him on a win now team, right? Because he's going to come in and help you on day one. So if you're the Chiefs, are you going to take a Cassius Howell who, is undersized, he has short arms, so you're still having some fears there? Or are you going to take a guy that's 25, but yes, he's in the window that the Chiefs are trying to win now in? So if we're looking pass rush, I personally think Mesidor is a better option for them, but I don't hate the idea of double dipping in corner, especially because they traded away Trent McDuffie and they lost Watson as well. So fortifying the defense, always a good option.
Yeah, I think we go with Messidor here. I just think they probably go with the defensive line. You already took a corner. There will probably still be some opportunities to dip into the corner position in the later
Mhm.
rounds. Yeah, in their second, third round picks. I think they could still come back. And I don't think there's a massive gap in some of these. There's still some pretty good corners left over on the board that they could try to target and come back for later.
Mhm.
Whereas edges usually get a little thinner pretty quickly. So, I think at 29, that's the direction I'm going to go. And we'll see what they decide to do. They could even decide to take a receiver in the earlier position and then come back for Hood later on in the 29th spot. So uh, he's a player I do think has a good chance of ending up in Kansas City, depending on what they do with that first pick.
Yep, absolutely. That's the thing. All these teams that have two picks, that first pick is really going to be contingent on what they decide to do on this with the second pick, right? So that'll be interesting to
Yep.
see. That brings the Miami Dolphins back on the clock of the 30th overall pick, Jake. At the 11th overall pick, we gave them Monroe Freeling, offensive tackle, freak of nature out of Georgia. So now we're looking at a situation where they do still need receiver. They do still need defensive back help. And Avion Terrell has continued to fall on the board. The problem with him is he's coming off an injury and he's a little bit slower of a cornerback, and that you always have fear when you have a cornerback who could be slow and undersized is not the best situation for most people, but he is a really really good zone corner. So zone covering cornerback, one of the best in the class. He's very very fluid with the way he moves, and so even though he's slow, it doesn't seem like he's constantly trying to catch up to receivers. He's very fluid with his hip movement, so he does a lot of good job with positioning himself appropriately. It's almost like he knows that his speed is somewhat of a weakness for him, and so because of that, he's really really feisty, fluid. He attacks the football. I think he forced like forced fumbles over the last 2 years or something like that. So even when the receiver catches the football, he's still going for that football. And I just think you're in a situation where you're going to draft good football players. So I think I also like Colton Hood, but I didn't think Avion Terrell would still be here for them at 30, and they do need cornerback help. So they took Monroe Freeling on the offensive side at 11. Yes, we'd love a receiver, but I don't know, man. Like, what receiver are you going to take here to be your one for Malik Willis? Like, I just think they're in a full rebuild. No Hill, no Waddle. So, like, yeah, you're going to take Chris Brazel the second to be your number one receiver? Probably not, right? So that's why I'm going to go ahead and take Clemson corner Avion Terrell for the Miami Dolphins 30th overall.
Yeah, I like it. And I think this board has not fallen very well for New England. With them needing tackle, they need defensive line, they need linebackers. All of those positions are kind of picked apart here. This is a spot that I think Howell, TJ Parker,
Mm-hmm.
uh, even is it Zion Young, yeah, for
Yep.
Missouri. He's a player I didn't really anticipate being here at 31. I actually thought he would go a little bit higher in this class as well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I kind of actually have him ranked above the guys above him in this case. So I think he would be a really good New England Patriot to bring in Zion Young. So I think that's the direction I'm going to go for the Patriots. Just go ahead, beef up the defensive line a little bit more. And I could see them considering Howell as well, just with them being a younger team. And,
Mm-hmm.
they still have some time to develop these guys. Obviously, Drake May's young, but also, you kind of say you're in a win now position as well. If you're New England, you were just in the Super Bowl, right? So you're
Yep.
obviously trying to get guys that can come in and make an immediate impact. So I'm going to go Zion Young here out of Missouri for New England at 31.
I like it. I actually, in my notes I had for the Patriots, Keldrick Falk if he fell, which he didn't. Cassius Howell, who's still there. TJ Parker or Zion Young. So it's literally all edges that I had, and they all happen to still be here except one. So pretty awesome how that board
Yeah.
fell. I mean, ideally they'd probably want a better edge, but the realistic situation is
Yeah.
this is probably the best that they're
Or
going to
even
get.
potentially tackle if one of the tackles ended up slipping in the class. I
Yep.
could see them going that direction too.
Yep. Now we have the Seattle Seahawks, the reigning Super Bowl champs, with the 32nd pick, the last pick of the first round. Their needs are they do need a running back. They lost Ken Walker. They do still have Sharps, but like, it's Sharps. They need an edge and they need defensive back help. So if we're looking at defensive backs, I do still like Colton Hood. Chris Johnson's still there. If we're looking at edge, we already talked about them just now. Cassius Howell, TJ Parker. I think those are the two guys that would potentially be first round players. Now, if we're honest about running back, Jadarian Price would be the only other guy that has an outside shot of being a first round running back, but I still don't think he's good enough to be a first round running back. So I just think it's a bit rich for the running back position there. So if I am them, we're looking at a situation where I'm probably going to go on the edge, and I'm probably going to personally take TJ Parker over Cassius Howell. I'm a TJ Parker fan. He's, again, very, very powerful physical player, can play on the edge. They already have a couple of good edge rushers, but that defense is so hectic that they like to run rotations from time to time. So I just think having another edge rusher there who can learn from some of the players they already have, coming to a situation where a team just won the Super Bowl, so you don't necessarily have to produce right away. I think that's a great spot for TJ Parker to go. So with the 32nd overall pick, I'm going to take TJ Parker, edge out of Clemson, and that, my friend, rounds out the official first round mock draft here that we have. These are all the picks on the board. If you're looking, I don't want to reread them because it's just going to take really long and it's unnecessary time wasted. I will say the biggest surprise for me, and it's just the way the mock fell, because again, I think when we were in the top 10, we just continued to realize that, when you don't have the best blue chip prospects, or the blue chip prospects are in non-positions that are necessary, or not the top end positions like a running back or something like that, there is a world where those type of players fall. And in this situation, I think the biggest surprise for us was Jeremiah Love continuing to fall. And the fact that he fell to 18 for the Vikings is a dream scenario for Minnesota, myself, and all fans. But I don't know that that's absolutely going to happen in real life. But anything really surprised you outside of the Jeremiah Love situation in this mock draft, Jake?
Yeah, obviously that's the big one. But I mean, if you do actually look at the top 10, there aren't a ton of spots where I think, wow, he's definitely going to go there. I mean, Tennessee would be one, Washington would be the other. I mean, Cleveland's not going that direction. I don't see New York going that direction. The Saints could be another that he potentially goes to. But, if he made it outside the top like 7 picks, or top 8 picks, there is a world where he continues to drop if somebody isn't trading up for him. I don't foresee that's going to end up happening. I think a little bit surprised. Obviously, we didn't really talk through any of these before, but a lot of tackles going off the board. I mean, I kind of anticipated that being the case with just this class kind of lining up the way it is. But, for people that play a lot of fantasy football, this first round draft may not be the most exciting as you're looking at your, if you're in a dynasty league, you have the rookie drafts coming up. And not a lot of the names you're seeing here on the board are not the guys you're going to be looking at drafting unless you happen to play in a league that you draft defensive players.
Right.
So, I think that is something that I actually do think we may see quite a bit of on draft day as well. I mean, one thing too that I was thinking about here as we were going through it, I still think there's a world where somebody maybe trades into the late first round and takes Ty Simpson just to get that 5th-year option on the quarterback. I could definitely see that being a possibility. We didn't do any trades here in this, and there really wasn't a huge opportunity unless, maybe you look at Cleveland in that late spot if they consider a Ty Simpson in that spot. But I think that's definitely some potential. I think you could maybe see Price sneak into the first round if a team's really looking to take a running back. But I think all the receivers I would anticipate went off the board. Most of the positional players that we really think are going to get drafted went. So, but that I think was the big thing that jumped out to me is this is a very heavy offensive defensive line class where you have a lot of people going in the trenches, which isn't really exciting for people, I don't think. But it's one of those, that's how you win championships, right? We saw it in Seattle with their defensive line being an anchor of that team. So I think we may see something similar to that with a lot of them going in this draft too.
Yeah, absolutely. And the trade up thing, again, it's very real. The NFL draft always has trades. So this isn't going to be 100% accurate because we know teams are going to trade. I just think you're going to want to look at the teams that have that second first round pick or that additional first round pick and look in situations where they're like, hey, this player we were looking at drafting with our first slot, he continues to fall. And maybe we can jump up a couple spots and grab him real quick. And that's where, we're a world where Jeremiah Love, if he does fall outside the top 10, which again, I don't think will happen, but you never know. If it does happen, a team will jump up and absolutely snag him and not let him fall all the way to 18. So That is it, man. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're watching, hit the like, hit the subscribe. It helps spread the word. Our socials are our Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at The Only Playbook. I am Sweetcar. That is Jake. The draft is officially 1 week away. We don't know if we'll be live for the draft or we'll just go and record immediately after and give our immediate reactions to the first round on Thursday. But stay tuned. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.